In theory, Vauxhall's Mokka Electric ticks a lot of boxes, especially in this usefully updated form. Small, fashionable SUVs are the market's primary growth area at present, and of course everyone's talking about EVs. This one gets even trendier looks and a smarter cabin, plus, as before, proven underpinnings and a drivetrain claiming up to 250 miles of range. It's the sort of electric model that ought to find a ready audience.
Unlike some volume rivals who are tinkering around the edges of electrification, Vauxhall says it's fully committed to the electric revolution. And we mean the full electric revolution. Since 2021, we've had the 𝗙cie Electric Mini and EV versions of the Vauxhall Combo and Vivaro Life people carriers. And it was in that year that we first saw the original version of the car we look at here, Vauxhall's Mokka Electric small SUV, then called the Mokka E. This was a very different kind of Mokka to the previous generation design, and initially it sold quite well for the Griffin brand, even in pricey EV form. But by 2023, sales had dropped by a third, and a mid-term facelift was eagerly anticipated by the dealer network. It's that update we're going to take a look at here. As before, all the basic engineering shared not only with the 𝗙cie Electric, but also by Stellantis Group's small crossover models from Peugeot, Citroën, DS, Jeep and Alfa Romeo. The Griffin brand, though, claims to have subtly evolved its version of this fashionable recipe. To find out more, as usual, you're going to need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. Well, this car doesn't feel quite as urgent away from rest as its 𝗙cie Electric showroom stablemate, but it's not slow, with 62 miles an hour from rest taking 9 seconds. As before, this model shares nearly all the same mechanicals you'll find in that EV Super Mini, though the usual single-speed auto transmission is now solely mated to the CMP platform's largest available 54 kilowatt-hour long-range battery. This offers a range of 250 miles, a big jump from the 209-mile figure of the Mokka E we tried back in 2021. It's linked to a more powerful 156 PS motor than before, 20 PS more, though doesn't actually feel any faster because the 260 Nm torque figure is just the same. 0 to 62 miles an hour is rated at 9 seconds, but in place of the near 130 mile an hour top speed of a petrol-powered Mokka, the flat-out figure here is just 93 miles an hour. Still, when was the last time you drove at 93 miles an hour? Perhaps you better not answer that. It's worth pointing out that you'll only get near the claimed range figure if you engage a rather restrictive eco drive setting that drops power output right down to 83 PS. Normal is the default drive mode, with sport necessary to release the full claimed drivetrain output. Like all electric vehicles, this one has a bit of a weight problem. That drivetrain adds over 300 kilos of bulk. But that arguably helps the Mokka Electric when it comes to ride quality. True, you'll feel things like speed humps keenly, but at speed on the open road, it handles tarmac tears a little better than its combustion cousins. There's very light steering, which you'll need to get used to, and a button to increase brake regeneration, which will charge the battery as you brake or cruise and eke out that all-important driving range. This is a cleaner, more appealing take on the second generation Mokka, but you might need a long stare and a quick reference to the old car to realise just why. Here at the side, the update changes are minor. A black design strip now runs from the A-pillars above the side windows, with another running across the lower door surfaces to the rear. Otherwise, as before, this Mokka B design remains the archetypal modern small crossover, all sweeping creases and colour-coded finishing, with very short overhangs, an angular C-pillar, and this crease that flows up through the front door towards the wing. As before, it's squat and muscular looking on wheels of between 17 to 18 inches in size. We've got the 18 inches here, housed within chunky wheel arches. This EV version gets special aero wheel designs. And all Mokkas now get this contrast-coloured black roof, a standard feature providing you avoid entry-level trim. The main visual changes made as part of this update are at the front here, where a new cut line below the blacked-out visor grille has been added. The LED headlamps also gain a more distinctive 3 lighting block signature plus chrome has been dispensed with, and there's a redesigned front bumper. As before, the bonnet is characterised by this pronounced central ridge. The rear plays a similar styling trick to the front, making the car look wider than it actually is. The slender sculpted LED tail lights, which now have an updated illuminating signature, play a key role, as does the well-spaced out Mokka name that sits above the crease running through the tailgate. There's the usual subtle roof spoiler and shark's fin aerial just beyond. And as before, everything sits on the usual Stellantis Group small car CMP platform. So not all that much has changed outside. Has more of the update budget been spent in the cabin? Well, let's step in and find out. Well, yes, there are a few bigger changes in the interior, where the so-called multimedia pure panel system on the dashboard now houses two 10-inch screens. Previously, the most affordable Mokka models were limited to screens of only 7 inches in size. As before, it's a cabin you're not going to like much if you object to shiny, smudge-worthy piano black plastic, and it's also one that would benefit from a splash or two of colour, though the contrasting grey on these sports seats looks quite smart, and there's some nice carbon fibre style trimming ahead of the passenger. The steering wheel's new as well. It gains the same design as used in this model's Frontera and Grandland SUV Griffin showroom stablemates, though it lacks paddle shifters, and we found it to be a little overlarge. Overall, though, it's quite a nice place to sit, and we applaud Vauxhall's continuing decision to fly in the face of perceived Stellantis design policy and separate out climate controls from the touchscreen into a lower bank of physical buttons. Having just tested a rival Ford Puma where that isn't the case, the day-to-day usability difference that made was very noticeable. You sit a little higher than that aforementioned Puma, but lower than in something like a Jeep Avenger, which is a good compromise in this segment. And to suit the current zeitgeist, you're surrounded by sturdy fabrics and recycled plastics. We mentioned the new instrument screen, which is actually 2 inches smaller than that of the pre-facelift Mokka we tested back in 2021, when top spec models got a 12-inch display. The software and graphics have been updated since then, though not to the point where this setup can offer you the kind of layout choice and full screen mapping option you'll get on some rivals. As before, the primary interface sees the majority of the screen devoted to digital speed, gear selection and speed limit readouts. With this EV version, there's space for a central power flow meter and flanking graphics for a power meter on the left and battery charge on the right. This central 10-inch infotainment screen now includes a number of functions previously controlled by dashboard buttons. There are also clearer widget-style menus, better Hey Vauxhall voice recognition with Chat GPT functionality, and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring. As usual with a Stellantis-sourced central display, there are customisable widget sections for commonly used functions, and you can keep swiping left to find others. There's also another usual Stellantis screen feature, the applications drawer, where on this EV version you'll find the battery management features. What else? Well, it's straightforward to adjust wheel and seat to find a good driving position, but unfortunately lumbar support is limited to a top spec ultimate trim level few will stretch to. You've also to stretch to that trim level for another near essential these days, a wireless phone charger. At least all Mokkas get rear parking sensors, and if you avoid the 2 base trim levels, a rear view camera as well, which you're going to need because over-the-shoulder visibility in here is somewhat hampered by the rising window line and the thick rear pillars. Cabin storage space would be okay if the glove box wasn't halved in size by a fuse box, but there are decent door bins, plus a lidded cubby sits behind the cup holders you'll find between the seats. You won't find connectivity ports in it because they're around the deep bin at the base of the centre stack. There are twin USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket. Okay, so let's have a look in the rear. Now, as before, the short rear doors and small aperture you enter through suggest that it's not going to be particularly spacious back here. Which is pretty much the way it turns out, and unlike in some key rivals, there's no useful sliding bench mechanism to improve things. Legroom for adults would be okay on a short to medium length journey, but you wouldn't really want to be back here for much longer than that. It'll probably be fine for children though, unless they object to the upwardly sloping window line, which particularly on models with tinted rear windows might leave some kids feeling a bit claustrophobic. There's no centre armrest. The headrests are of the sort that uncomfortably dig into your shoulder until you raise them up. The door bins are small, the middle pew is narrow and a little raised, and the door cards turn out to be unimaginatively finished in plain black plastic. But there's a relatively low centre tunnel, and just above it, youngsters will be pleased to find a couple of central USB ports provided. Right, to the loading area now. Now, it's somewhat frustrating that you do have to hunt around a little bit for the button to open the tailgate, but it's here just above the number plate, and you're probably going to get your hands dirty with road grime pulling it up because there's no powered hatch option. With everything open, there's a usefully large aperture, but quite a high lip, and a 350 litre capacity figure that's a hefty 110 litres less than you'd get in the brand's cheaper Frontera SUV model. To give you some segment perspective, a rival Nissan Juke offers 422 litres, while a Ford Puma has 456. It's a deep space, which makes the lack of an adjustable height boot floor all the more noticeable. You only get that with top Ultimate trim, and you can't add it as an option. There are bag hooks on either side, and an LED light on the left. The rear bench has an inflexible 60-40 split when the rear seat is folded up to 1,105 litres of room is released in a combustion Mokka model, or up to 1,060 litres in this Mokka Electric. As we filmed, Vauxhall was asking from around £32,500 upwards for this Mokka Electric, which was available with Griffin, Design, GS and Ultimate trim at prices up to around £38,000. This Mokka Electric vies with close rivals like its Stellantis cousins, the Peugeot E 2008, the Citroën E C3 Aircross, the Jeep Avenger EV, the DS3 E-Tense and the Alfa Romeo Junior Elettrica, as well as with cars like the Ford Puma Gen E, the Kia EV3, the Skoda Elroq, the MG4, the Smart #1, the Mini Aceman, the Fiat Grande Panda EV, the BYD Atto 2, the GWM Aura 03 and Renault's 4 and 5 E-Tech models. If, having considered all the alternatives, you decide that it is a Mokka that you want, then you're going to need to know about standard spec. So let's take a closer look at that now. All versions of this Vauxhall come pretty well equipped. The most affordable Griffin and Design spec models have pretty much the same level of spec. That gets you 17-inch black alloy wheels, a black roof, dark tinted rear windows, rear parking sensors, cruise control, LED tail lights, and Intelli LED headlights with high beam assist. Inside, there's a 10-inch digital instrument cluster, plus electronic climate control, an automatic anti-dazzle rear view mirror, cruise control with an intelligent speed limiter, heated front seats and a movable boot floor. Media stuff's taken care of by a 10-inch colour touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. If you want a slightly sportier look and feel, it might be worth upgrading to the mid-range GS trim that we're trying here. This adds larger 18-inch wheels, sportier looks, black focus upholstery, aluminium pedals, rear tinted windows and a panoramic 180-degree rear view camera. Top Ultimate spec gets you IntelliLux LED matrix headlights, navigation, Alcantara upholstery, keyless entry, power folding mirrors, adaptive cruise control, a heated steering wheel, a wireless phone charger and a driver's seat massage function. What about safety? Well, Euro NCAP only gave this Mokka 4 stars out of 5 in their testing. There were concerns about frontal impacts, the lack of central airbags, and the fact that the car's autonomous braking system doesn't recognise cyclists. More modern designs in this segment cover these issues better. But Vauxhall includes the drive assist basics, which means automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection, low speed forward collision alert, lane departure warning with lane keep assist, extended traffic sign recognition and driver drowsiness alert. Plus, 6 airbags, all linked to the usual eCall system. We mentioned earlier that this Mokka Electric now comes only in 54 kilowatt-hour form with up to 250 miles of range. To maintain that in the depths of winter, you're going to need to have added the optional heat pump, which cost another £400. The Mokka Electric model's powertrain can support most domestic charging standards as well as most commercially offered DC rapid charging systems. It has support for up to 3-phase 11 kilowatt charging in AC mode for home use, and a modest 100 kilowatt DC capability is standard, allowing the car to be replenished at a DC public charging point to 80% capacity in 30 minutes. Full AC charging from a 7.4 kilowatt home wall box needs 7 hours and 30 minutes, which you can reduce to 5 hours if you're able to use a 3-phase supply and charge at 11 kilowatt. Plug into a domestic socket and you'll need a yawning 21 hours and 45 minutes. What else? At the time of testing in spring 2025, benefit-in-kind tax ratings for the Mokka Electric were pitched at 3%, and this car has a first-year VED road tax rating of just £10, with £195 payable annually thereafter. Insurance for this Mokka Electric is Group 24. Residual values for this Mokka Electric are predicted after 3 years and 36,000 miles to be just 32%. The Mokka claws the advantage back with modest cost of options and very affordable servicing that you can budget for with a range of pre-paid servicing plans. And this Mokka Electric needs a service at the end of the first year or at 8,000 miles, after which it'll need garage visits every 2 years or 16,000 miles. For all Mokkas, there's an unremarkable but potentially extendable 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty. And this EV model has the usual 8-year, 100,000 mile battery warranty. It's hard to recognise this generation Mokka from the Korean Mark I design launched back in 2012 that trundled around on an old-fashioned chassis and used thirsty petrol engines. These days, the Mokka is a thoroughly modern product, and the improved Mokka Electric demonstrates just how modern. The competition in this segment, though, is tough, and if you've cast your net about in this class, you'll know that it still can't go quite as far on a single charge as some competitors, nor is it quite as engaging to drive as the stronger selling rival Ford Puma Gen E. And of course, it doesn't really offer anything fundamentally different from its near identically engineered closest Stellantis group cousins in this class, from Peugeot, Citroën, Fiat, Jeep and Alfa Romeo. For all that, though, we can see plenty of browsing Vauxhall showroom customers being quite seduced by what's on offer here. In summary, this Mokka Electric delivers just enough driving range to be practical, just enough style to fit in at the gym, and just enough value to make the switch to an EV possible on monthly finance. Just enough of everything, then, for Vauxhall to get more of a toehold in this very important sector.